lunch. And for the session, I'll call upon the speakers and please come up and take up your seat. So we have Dr. Sangmu Thendup, and Dr. Uden Bhutia, Mr. Koncho Tashi, and the fourth speaker, we have Ms. Padma Angmo. Okay, we will start as soon as the presentation is ready. So the same rules, each speaker will have 20 minutes, and I request all the speakers to try to be on time limit so that at the end we could have some question and answer session. And I'll try to let you know 3 minutes before your time's up, okay? And by that time, you should try to wrap up your presentation. Okay, so for the first speaker, we have Dr. Sangmu Thendup from Dr. Sangmu Thendup is the associate professor at the Sikkim University, and he's also the head of Buddhist studies under the Department of History. And Dr. Sangmu Thendup will speak on the topic, the Sherpas of Sikkim and ethnographic background. So, Dr. please start your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Julie and Namaste. I'm Sangmu Thendup, and my paper is on Sherpas of Sikkim and ethnographic background. But before that, I would just like to begin with giving thanks to the organizing committee, TPI, Dr. Kyishong for inviting us to this important conference. And in order to commemorate the 90th birthday of His Holiness, which is being observed as the Year of Compassion, this paper is a humble attempt to talk about the Sherpas in Sikkim. The Sherpa community is known globally for its indomitable spirit and intimate relations with the Himalayas, and Tibet holds a unique and foundational place in the socio-cultural milieu of the Himalayas, including Sikkim. While the contribution of the Sherpas to the Himalayan exploration and mountaineering are wide known, the Sherpas of Sikkim also represent a broader narrative rooted in centuries of migration, adaptation, resilience with continuity and change. So this paper will try to trace the historical migration of Tibet, although there is absence of documents. My study is mostly based on oral sources. And another aspect of the paper is a discussion of the rich cultural heritage of the Sherpas in Sikkim, which is very similar to Tibetan culture. And so firstly, I'll start with the location of Sikkim. We all know how Sikkim is a very important state in the Eastern Himalayas. It used to be a different kingdom before 1975, when it became the 22nd state of the Indian Union, and it occupies a very important place in the northeastern landscape of India, and it's surrounded by Tibet on the top, and it straddled an ancient trade route also in between Tibet and India, and on its east and west we have Nepal and Bhutan. So the happenings of the Himalayas also impacted the history of the Himalayas around this region, also impacted the history of Sikkim. And this is another map. Coming to the methodology applied for this paper, it's based on qualitative research methodology, utilizing primary data from interviews and oral narratives, as I said, and based on field surveys conducted across Sikkim and supplemented by a few secondary sources. This is the methodology adopted. And coming to the terminology of the Sherpas. The Sherpas have three existing ethnonyms, namely Sherpa, Sherwa, and Sherpa. The word Sherpa is derived from the Tibetan word Sherpa, meaning Easterners, with the term Sher meaning East and Pa denoting the people. Kunwar in 1898 argued that as per the Sherpas of Solu, the word Sherpa originated much later, before which they were referred to as Bote, a term given by the Nepalese to people from Tibet. Another scholar, Dor Bahadur Bishta, also noted that traditionally all Himalayan people from the valleys and mountain slopes of the high Himalayas on the northern border with Tibet, Sherpas included, were collectively identified as Bote. But it is seen that both Sherpa and Sherwa had the same meaning and were used interchangeably. Anne Parker, in her article, writes that the meaning of the term Sherpa ranges from a specific job description on organized trekking tours to a generic term for all peoples of Tibetan origin also. Building on that argument, she showed that Sherpa is an evolving social category. Now, today, the term Sherpa is sometimes also used in various contexts by Westerners. The term Sherpa is often used by foreigners to refer to almost any guide or climbing supporter hired for mountaineering in the Himalayas. And we see the changing connotation of the word very recently also in the context of the G20 summit in 2014, where the word Sherpa was identified as a high-ranking official or government official representing a country in the preparation of the negotiating leading to the G20 summit. Now, if we have to look at the ethnography of Sherpas, then we can see that the Sherpas are mainly spread across the three regions of the eastern Himalayas, namely Nepal, Sikkim, and Darjeeling. And the origin of the Sherpas by most scholars have been traced to the eastern Tibet region. However, if we look at the works on the Sherpas, then most of the works on ethnographic works on the Sherpas have been done on the Sherpas of Nepal. It starts with the work of Haimendorf in 1964. Then we have other scholars such as Opitz, and then we have Sherry Otna. We have many works, and then in between 2000 to 2020, there were no works, but then again in 2022 we have an important work on the ethnography of Sherpas on Nepal by Passang Sherpa. However, for the Sherpas of Sikkim, we don't have such extensive work done, so these kinds of works are lacking. However, the Center for Endangered Languages of Sikkim University has worked on the language aspect of the Sherpas in Sikkim. And very, very recently, the Denjong Sherpa Association of Sikkim has come up with a book. I forgot to get the book today. I was supposed to get the book, but I just have a picture of the book, and the book is The Sherpas of Sikkim, an ethnographic engagement with history, culture, and identity. It was just published 1 month ago, where I have also contributed an article. So gradually it's picking up the studies on the Sherpas. And now coming to the migration of Sherpas to Sikkim. The Sherpa migration to Sikkim is characterized by recurring movements facilitated by religious and trade exchanges, along with some religious upheavals in Tibet. Scholars across the world, they agree that Sherpas are of Tibetan origin, but they debate over the time and the routes of migration. And that is because of the lack of academic work and documentation, because of which there is contestation regarding the Sherpas' identity also and in the contemporary world. Now, if we look at some historical sources of Sikkim, especially in English I talk about, because I've only consulted those. So if we have to look at the earliest record, that is the Gazetteer of Sikkim by Risley, in his chapter on the history of Sikkim and its rulers, he writes about the presence of 3 ethnic groups in Sikkim as of 1891. They were the Rongs or the Lepchas, the Khamba or Khampa people known as Bhotias, and the Sikkim Limbus. But further on, he also adds that there were other families who were the descendants of Khebumsar, the Tibetan ancestor of the Namgyal rulers who had come to Sikkim. First, he gives a list of the 6 families as mentioned here, and then the other 8 families, making 14 families altogether, who were the main descendants of Khebumsar, and they are supposed to have come and resided in Sikkim. But along with that, Risley also mentions that there were little families who came to Sikkim at various times since the establishment of the kingdom. And in the list of the little families, we find that the Sherpas are also mentioned as one of the people who came subsequently to and settled down in Sikkim. However, they have not been tagged to the first, group of migration along with those people. They have come subsequently. And Risley also mentions how the Sherpas, after coming to Sikkim, they had to get admitted to Padma Angmo monastery, but on the payment of a fees. So, other than these, the mention of Sherpa in this text, now there are a few other mentions as per new scholars who've been writing on the migration pattern or presence of Sherpas in Sikkim. We have scholars such as Dr. Dawa Sherpa and Dr. Rinzingongmu Sherpa, who have pointed out certain instances mentioned in the history of Sikkim. They point out by citing Risley himself from the Gazetteer, they point out that during the time of the second Chogyal of Sikkim, Tenzing Namgyal, who had married 3 times, the first wife was from Bhutan, the second wife was Debasam Sherpa from Tinkijong in the northwest of Sikkim, and the third wife was a daughter of a Limbu Raja, Yo-Yo Hang. The second queen and the mother of the third king of Sikkim, Debasam Sherpa, they suggest may have belonged to the Sherpa clan, but there is lack of documents to support this view. Moreover, we find only her name as a suggestion, and that too during a time when women or queens were not given any place in the pages of historical narrative. So further research is needed on this aspect. And regarding the Sherpa migration in Sikkim, few scholars also opine that the Sherpas mostly migrated to Sikkim during the Nepalese wave of migration in the end of the 18th and 19th century. So there are various, opinions regarding the migration. It may have happened in different phases. And this also arises because of the lack of properly documented sources or comprehensive research tracing the Sherpas' migration pattern to Sikkim. There is yet another incident that the scholars have mentioned, and that is an anecdote related with a person named Raptan Sherpa, and this person is mainly, he is a kind of regent during the time of the 5th Chogyal of Sikkim, Chogyal Phuntsuk Namgyal, when he was, put on the throne as an infant. There were some problems within the chieftains, and in order to solve the problem, a letter was sent to Tibet, and Tibet in turn, they deputed, the Tibetan government deputed Raptan Sherpa to act as a regent, and this person, Raptan Sherpa, played a very significant role in the political affairs of the state as the regent of Sikkim Darbar in the 1750s. He is also credited for introducing the taxation system in Sikkim in 1747, and he's supposed to have convinced his naive population during that time by conducting a census operation. He used to present a plateful of salt to all those who came to pay him respect, and this way he maintained the list of subjects who came to pay him respects, which later helped him in assessing the taxes also. And apart from that, he also is said to have built jongs and at Karmi and Mangshar, and he is also said to have called an assembly known as the Mangshar Assembly, and it is said that during his time, people also signed a constitution which structured the revenue system of those times, and some certain taxes were also laid down during his time. So his contribution to Sikkim history is highlighted, and so Raptan Sherpa's influential position within the state of Sikkim may have encouraged people from Tibet to further enter the country via the Chumbi Valley. And though he returned to Tibet, the ones who came with them are supposed to have stayed back. Married to the granddaughter of this person. So further research is required on this, but then there are suggestions by scholars that this Raptan Sherpa may have belonged to the Sherpa clan or tribe, I mean. And Uh, so, now coming to the mapping of Sherpa migration to Sikkim, the Sherpa history has never been devoid of instances of migration to newer regions, and their long migratory history can be understood with their trans-Himalayan migration between Tibet, Nepal, and India. A difference in geographical locale may have a difference in influence on the identity construction of the same ethnic group. For instance, the identity formation of the Sherpas in Nepal and Darjeeling was highly influenced by their encounter with mountaineering and colonialism. However, the Sherpas in Sikkim, despite no such colonial history of intervention, still struggle to find a collective identity and a representation for themselves. The history and migration to the state remain obscure and underrepresented. And Sherpas are often labeled as Nepali Sherpa or Sikkimese Sherpa. The difference between Nepali Sherpa and Sikkimese Sherpa is actually just their nationality. Now, there are also some stories regarding the oral traditions which are connected with Buddhist religious traditions, which talk about how Sikkim was identified as Bayul Demozong by Guru Rinpoche, and then this identification of Sikkim as Demozong may have also played a fundamental role in installing the migration program to Sikkim, especially from Tibet, as it was depicted in Tibetan Buddhism. So it is seen that, so it is believed by people that, Sherpas themselves of Sikkim, they believe that the Sherpas were originally from Tibet and they migrated to Sikkim directly from different connecting routes that came via Chumbi, Ha, and Pang. So these are the regions that they say they migrate from. And these, findings were found out during the fieldwork in Sherpa villages, particularly of Western Sikkim, where the participants had their own oral narratives on the Sherpa migration. And most importantly, what they said is they disagreed with having the migratory history from Nepal. Most of them said that we came directly from Tibet, because why would one go first to Nepal and then come towards Sikkim? That was their deliberation, that they have come directly from Sikkim. A small chunk would have come from Nepal also, but most Sherpas residing in Sikkim believe that they have come directly from Tibet and they have settled down in Sikkim. One interesting factor that can be noted in the entire migration process is that they've migrated in clans. Whenever the migration was happening, the clan head would be given the responsibility of setting up new settlements. So wherever the Sherpas are found around Sikkim, mostly we see them in clusters of the similar clan residing together. So today, the Sherpas of Sikkim are residing in many places of all the 6 districts of Sikkim. So in West Sikkim, Tsering, South Sikkim, we find several, areas or pockets where the Sherpas have been residing. Now I will come to the next part of my paper that deals with cultural beliefs and practices. And here we see clear linkages with Tibet. The cultural aspects of the Sherpas have evolved since their migration from Tibet to other regions such as Nepal and India. However, we often see continuity and changes in the culture of the Sherpas. Now, if we have to talk about their culture, it would comprise of the religious beliefs and practices, their language, food and cuisine, traditional ornaments and dresses, music, dance, festivals, as well as ritual ceremonies. Traditionally, the Sherpas have been Buddhist, and they worship all Buddhist gods and goddesses, and they also worship guardian deities such as Mount Everest, Chomolungma, and Mount Kanchenjunga. The rituals are very similar to Tibetan rituals because most of them are based on Tibetan Buddhism, and the religious rituals are worshipped at homes. They have worship altars, and for the public sphere, the worship in the public sphere generally happens in the Sherpa monasteries or gumbas, and it is seen that wherever they reside, wherever they've been residing, they set up gumbas or monasteries for themselves. So since my time is quickly running out, I'll just show you a few pictures to give you an idea of the religious instruments that they use. The Sherpa language, I would quickly like to say that the Sherpa language has been identified as an endangered language because only 30% of the people are speakers of the language. So this is the Sherpa food, which basically was maize, potato, and wheat and beef. But these days, rice, dal, and other food have taken over. If we have to talk about traditional dress and ornaments, these are the male attire that they use, traditionally used. Female attire, these are the ornaments. Initially, the dresses used to be very warm, based on their area of inhabitation. But these days, other materials are being used. Now, music, song, and dance also form an important part of their culture. They have, a lot of folk songs, and the folk songs, they always depict nature and environment which they were earlier residing. But these days, it is seen that the composition of the songs are changing, and it's no more on the songs are no more sung with the traditional instruments such as danyen. There used to be certain traditional dances, which are still, some of them are used, some of them are performed during marriage ceremonies and festivals. There are a lot of festivals that Sherpas are, they still celebrate, such as these. Some are secular festivals, some are religious festivals. And I would just like to bring your focus to a festival which is only unique to Sikkim, and that is being also celebrated by the Sherpas of Sikkim, and that is Pang Lapsol. That is an entire festival dedicated to Mount Kanchenjunga, because because Mount Kanchenjunga is the protective deity of Tenzong. So this is again a marriage ceremony which lasts between a long ceremony which consists of several stages. It may go on for a week, and it's a very important cultural practice. And then another important ceremony or function is the name ceremony, where children used to be based on the name, on the basis of the day they were born, but not any longer. Nowadays, we see changes in the patterns of names being, adopted for children. And after that, rituals are very intricate, connected with Buddhism and connected with life after death. It lasts for 49 days, where there's recitation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and every 7 days the dingi is performed. So I think that's about it. And these are 3 aspirations of the Sherpas in Sikkim that they have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Samula, for your enlightening presentation about the Sherpa, the migration of Sherpas, the culture, basically all aspects about the Sherpa. And for the next speaker, we have Dr. Uden Bhutia from the West Bengal Education Service, Assistant Professor. And Dr. Uden will speak on the Bhutia community in Kalimpong, a sociological exploration. Please.
Thank you so much, sir, for the introduction. Well, my name is Dr. Uden Bhutia, and I'm currently employed with the West Bengal Education Services in the Group A category, and currently I'm serving as an assistant professor at Government General Degree College in Gopiballapur 2, that's in West Bengal. So before I begin my paper, as you can see, the title of my paper is Bhutia Community in Kalimpong, a Sociological Exploration. So I'm going to give you a sociological point of view about the Bhutia community in Kalimpong. So before I begin with my paper, I take this opportunity to express huge heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this beautiful Tibet-Himalaya Relations Conference, the TPI, the Dalai Lama Institute of Higher Education, College for Higher Tibetan Studies, and Monlam Charitable Trust for bringing us all together under one roof to exchange, learn, and share ideas while we celebrate the Year of Compassion, the birthday of our great the Dalai Lama. So thank you so much, sir, for that opportunity. Now, as I begin with my paper is titled Bhutia Community in Kalimpong, a Sociological Exploration. And what I am trying to do is I'm just trying to bring my community in front of you all so that you all can have a little bit of idea about what the Bhutia community in Kalimpong is. Okay, I stress on the fact in Kalimpong because whenever we have whatever data we used to have earlier is all about Bhutias in Sikkim as general. So that is why I want to showcase the Bhutia community from Kalimpong. So here I begin. The English word Tibet appears to be derived from Tubot, which is the Mongoloid name for the northern portion of the Tibetan plateau. I guess we're all familiar with that. The term name Bhutia, also spelled as Bhotia and Bhotiya, okay, is said to have been derived from the Tibetan word Bodhpa. Bodh meaning Tibet and Pa as in inhabitants, so like inhabitants of Tibet. Now the Sanskrit-speaking races of India have them called as Bhotiyas, okay, Bhotias. So it is the generic name Bhutia that is used to refer to those Tibetan origin tribes inhabiting the eastern Himalayan region comprising of Sikkim and Darjeeling and Kalimpong in West Bengal. Now, the Bhutia community of Kalimpong has long shaped our cultural and religious fabric of the region. Now, though acclaimed to be one of the earliest settlers in that region, we are unable to find much ancient documented records about the community's transition in terms of development from ancient Tibet to the greater nation of Sikkim and the then modern Darjeeling district. Okay, but if you are to make any study regarding the Bhutias of Kalimpong from time immemorial, we cannot do that in isolation. So it is very necessary for us to have a holistic view of developments within erstwhile the greater nation of Sikkim. So we have to take that into consideration. So in order to go through that path, I would just like to give a brief history about Sikkim. Sikkim in 1642 AD witnessed the consecration of the then king Phuntsok Namgyal as the Chogyal. At that time, Sikkim included Chumbi Valley in the north, up to the Hazong in Bhutan, as far as the Arun River in Nepal, and much of Jalpaiguri in West Bengal. He moved his capital to Yuksam and instituted the first centralized administration, with Buddhism being an established religion in the region. In 1700 AD, Chador Namgyal's succession to the throne was opposed by his half-sister, whose mother, Peri Wongmo, was a Bhutanese. Okay, so a force, was invited from Bhutan to, that is what I learned, to assassinate the king. And hence, as the palace of Rabdansi was seized, forcing Chador Namgyal to flee to Tibet via Ilam in Nepal, the Bhutanese held the country for as long as almost 6 years, that is from 1700 to 1706. On the return of the king, the Bhutanese evacuated half of Sikkim west to the Teesta, but were still in position at Damsang Fort and retained it, which is present-day Kalimpong. The Dharma king of Bhutan administered the annexed area through Bhutanese officials till the conclusion of the Anglo-Bhutan War of 1864. The Treaty of Sinchula, 1865, then integrated this area into British Sikkim, and compensation was granted to the then Deb Raja by the East India Company. The Treaty of Sinchula, however, failed one thing: to address the future of these tribes of Bhutanese origin who were residing in that area, and most of the time they have been referred to as the leased out race. After this treaty, Kalimpong was made into a subdivision called Dalimkot, and within the Western Doors district, but later it was absorbed into the Sadar district, and it was not until 1916 the area became a separate subdivision, again with Kalimpong as its headquarters, later evolving into what we now recognize as Kalimpong district, which was formed recently in 14th February 2017 only. Now, as we all know through history, that Kalimpong's position has a very important role to play, as it was the hub, it was the center of so many activities. Right. Now, Kalimpong district has a total population currently of 251,642 people, with 29.79 people belonging to the scheduled tribes, out of which 20.94% are the Buddhists. And if the recent, caste certificate data, which I got a week back, so it says that there is approximately 733 Bhutia households in Kalimpong right now. So, earlier, Risley, H.H. Risley and Hooker in the 1840s, they have had mentions about Bhutias in their work. But, there was a lack of exact ancient documental records regarding the community's transitional development in relation to Kalimpong and Darjeeling. So, but we can see that there have been mentions of monasteries being ransacked at Observatory Hill in Darjeeling during the Gorkha invasion of 1788. This was in a book by E.C. Doze, Concise History of Darjeeling since 1935. So he has mentioned that, you know, at that time when the Gurkhas invaded Darjeeling, the monastery was ransacked over there, and the remains of the monastery was taken to another place. Now that place today is known as Bhutia Basti. So this is one instance where we can see that the Bhutias were present at that time also. Another thing is Sir Ashley Eden's report of 1864. He mentions there that Kalimpong is a very small hamlet, where he talks about a Buddhist monastery signifying the presence of a Buddhist community, Bhutia community, and he says the monastery has Tuso Simpa. Okay, so this is the map of Kalimpong, and so actually what he meant was the Tongsa Gumpa. This is a Bhutanese of Bhutanese origin, so it still exists till today. So Tongsa Gumpa, which is believed to have been constructed in the late 1600s. Now it is also said that during 1864, when the Damsang fort was attacked, the remains, the deities, the textbooks of the Damsang fort, okay, so I have a picture of the Damsang fort. Yeah, this is the Damsang fort. So when this Damsang fort was attacked, so the remains, the whatever deity statues were there and the textbooks, it had to be taken to a safe place. So that time they had taken all the deity, sorry. Okay, how do you go back this side? So when this fort was ruined, all they were searching for a safe place to keep all the things, the artifacts, so it was taken to this monastery. This is known as the Sangchen Dorji Monastery, where the Shabdung Rinpoche was also housed. I think most of my Bhutanese friends would be very much familiar with this. So, so these all are, you know, enough proofs for the existence of the Bhutia community long time back. Then came another proof was the Marindan settlement report on Kalimpong. Okay, so this is the actual report. So in 1882, this is a proper documented proof of the presence of Bhutia community within Kalimpong subdivision after the British annexation. Now, C.R. Mandarin, then the in charge of Kalimpong, he was a collector. He submitted a report to the Deputy Commissioner Darjeeling in accordance to the provisions of the Board of Revenue Settlement Rule. And he states, this report states that rent-free holdings were categorized into 3 different classes, out of which the first one was those given for the support of religious and educational institutions to Buddhist monasteries and hermitages. Then it also reads, the Pidong Gumpa situated in Mairong Valley among almost a purely Bhutia population. So we see, you know, these are all proofs, documented proofs of Bhutia existence in Kalimpong. Okay, so you see, the first census, you know, it was conducted in 1872 and under the Bengal District Gazetteers by, if you refer to O'Malley, it is the earliest documented instance where the Bhutias of Darjeeling were enumerated, okay, the numbers were counted, and it recorded a total of 9,300 Bhutias in total, and this census, you know, it broadly recognized 4 types of Bhutias, the Sikkimese, the Sherpas, the Drukpas, and the Tibetan Bhutias. So subsequently, you know, this is the Marindan's report. So this was the, you know, Bhutia population. So in 1911, there were like 10,768, then 21, 10,7, if you can just follow, 10,710, and 1931, 10,629, 1941, 14,541, and 55, we have 19,382, and then 2001 and 11, which I'll come back later, okay? So the scheduled tribes list, as specified by the Constitution Order 1950, column 2, listed 7 tribes, so you can see that, 7 tribes which consisted of Bhutias and Lepchas. Okay, however, another list in the same column, if you can see column number 3, it has been specifically mentioned, number 37, hill tribes, okay, so this was given the title of a list of educationally backward, other than SC and ST. So in this category, it was hill tribes of Himalayas and of Chittagong hill tracts. Okay, other than those specified in SC and ST order. So here we can understand that Bhutia tribe of West Bengal had been accorded the ST status via Constitution Order 1950, But who shall be under the category of the Bhutias? Or who are the Bhutias? Is it the Sherpas, the Sikkimis, the Tibetans? Who are the Bhutias? That had not been specified. So now the biggest victory I think of that time was on June 13, 1952. It was a very significant day, for the tribal welfare in West Bengal. A separate ministry for tribal welfare was established, and there our Tenzing Wangdi sir had been the deputy minister. So when this when this tribal advisory council was established, they had a meeting, and this is where Mrs. Sabitri Devi, okay, she was then the president of Lepcha Association of Kalimpong. She desired that Sherpas should be specifically mentioned in the list, because there is a lot of ambiguity as who is going to be within the Bhutias. Now, following this and a lot of discussions, a cultural research institute was formed in 1954, and in 1955, I will just this cultural research institute of 1954, they also did a lot of work regarding preservation of Bhutias, and not only Bhutias but also Santals, Oraons, whatever tribe was there, the preservation of the culture. And I would like to read a few lines, just a one line. So it says, they mention that Bhutia tents, kits used by Tenzing Norgay Sherpa, was marked as added attraction in a fair sort of thing, where people were introduced with the different tribes. Now, I quote unquote, films are frequently exhibited in the villages so that they may know each other better, and also what is important, know themselves better. Okay? So if you can understand that, know themselves better. So this is the report of 1954. And so these words are actually, it shows that the lack of clarity of identity, I think, because it has been specifically mentioned over there. So then as a result of all these, in 1955, it was declared that the Bhutia, under the Bhutia list of Bhutias, the Drukpa, Kagate, Sherpa, Tibetan, Yolmo, and Toto will be included. But again here, Singh Shaba Bhutias, they were again not included. And why they were not included, that is still not known. The Singh Shabas, okay? So now, I guess this was in the political, this was the political developments and all the legislative developments. So if you have to look about Bhutias in the history, again I told you O'Malley's district gazetteer, he mentions the coexistence of large number of Bhutias, Lepchas and Tibetans in Darjeeling. And then he also suggests that the early description of Bhutias as a race was, they mentioned that Bhutias are very turbulent. Bhutias are very turbulent. That is what he says, that Bhutias are very turbulent, but I disagree. This is what he says. I disagree, because he regards them as very cheerful now. In this edition, he says that I regard them as very cheerful, merry, with a strong willingness to work, not very submissive as the Lepchas, okay, and not very pushing as the Nepalese. He also mentions them to be very strong and powerfully built, but with a lot of love for gambling. Okay, I think they used to play the Para Shubha. Okay, so in the Sierra report of 1957, the Bhutias have been described as settlers in Darjeeling Hills from Tibet, Bhutan, Sikkim, and Nepal. They are traditional graziers, stock breeders, agriculturists, and traders. Their different occupations are peculiar to the sub-tribes. However, during that time, the Nepalese seem to have outdone them in agriculture, so most of them lived as graziers and coolies. The trade in and out of Tibet was also handled by them, but the establishment of the Red regime in Tibet had affected this, and it had caused them a lot of misery. Lamas were considered to form a large portion of that population and were looked up even for medical care. So some writers also reported existence of polyandry amongst the Bhutias then. Dress habits and religious configurations saw little or no change, and 70% of the Bhutias were found to speak some other languages, mostly Hindi, Nepali, and Bengali, along with their mother tongue. So who are the Bhutias now? So history, local narratives, oral memory, it all suggests that Bhutias traditionally followed a clan-based social system and came from a Tibetan origin. each clan was linked to its own ancestral lineages and places of origin. So under the canopy term Bhutia, a generic term, we find in Kalimpong the Tibetan Bhutias, okay, who is known to be, who trace their lineage to Tibet. The Sikkimese Bhutias, also known as Dengzongpas, trace their origin to Sikkim. The Drukpas trace their belonging to Bhutan. The Sherpas and the Yolmos trace their origin to Nepal. Okay, and the Singh Sabas who consider themselves as Bhutia. But having said this, again, even if I say that the Sherpas and Yolmos trace their origin to Nepal or Drukpas trace their origin to Bhutan, in the end, I think we are all linked with Tibet somehow. Now, before the Britishers, Kalimpong was a ridge that lay in the frontier zone between Sikkim and Bhutan, and it is said that local Lepcha communities lived alongside migrating Tibeto-Himalayan groups, including the Bhutias. After the Treaty of Sinchula, Kalimpong was made into a hill station. 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay, so I know it's like so deep, I can't even shorten it. Okay, but yeah, I think you all should know a very interesting thing about Kalimpong. I'll just read this. Treaty of Sinchula, 1865, Kalimpong was made into a hill station because of a Jalapila Pass becoming India's gateway to Tibet. Now this drew many Tibetan Bhutia traders, graziers, pastorals and monastic networks to settle in and around the bazaar. By 1950s, the trade was at its peak and there was a construction of new monasteries like Tharpa Choling, okay, brought about the cultural existence of the Bhutias. At that time, there was a Tibetan newspaper that was published from Kalimpong from 1925 to 1963 by Gegen Dorji Thachin, and it is, I think, one of the most dramatic social and political transformation. So if I have to shorten it up, summarize it, I have actually a detailed thing, but if I have to summarize the lifestyle of the Bhutias, it quite matches with it is as similar. All Sherpa, Tibetans, Sikkimese, they all have a similar language, all coming from the same Tibetan Sambota script. And the dress is all similar, except for a few changes here and there, like the headgear and some ornaments. Only that is different. And the lifestyle is all the same. Like ma'am mentioned about the Kyishong, this is some old pictures, of the Bhutias in Kalimpong. So the Sikkimese Bhutias, the Tibetans, the Drukpas, Singh Saba. This is a wedding ceremony. So, and we all have a Kyishong. So it's all similar. All these lifestyles is similar. So let me just, please, I'll take 2 minutes extra. The Bhutia community, we are all trying to preserve the culture and identity, but at the same time, we are also trying to draw a line, okay, so that we can preserve, we can work towards the continuity of our heritage and culture. Now, Frederick Barth, he talks about a theory of ethnic boundaries. He suggests that ethnicity is not fixed. He suggests that it's not a fixed cultural essence, it is a product of boundary maintenance. So the Bhutias in Kalimpong construct and negotiate identities through interaction with other coexisting communities like Nepalese and the Lepchas. We can note that this boundary maintenance is visible through the traditional and local indigenous rituals, marriage practices, dress and language, and also their participation in the monasteries and associations. Also, if we look at the Hall's theory of cultural identity, we can see a layered identity, and that is the basis of my paper. We can see a layered identity and also a shifting identity, because we can understand the Bhutia community as both a historical continuity and continuously re-articulated narrative because of migration, education, and geographical classifications. While the community is rooted in Tibetan Buddhist traditions and draw their foremost existence to the historical Tibet, the identity has evolved through sustained interaction between different communities as well as dynamic political and legal frameworks, as I explained to you all earlier. So it wouldn't be wrong to state that the Bhutias have a layered identity, which is always anchored in cultural memory, but is constantly adapting to the new socio-economic changes. It suggests that they do not relate to just one single identity, but the one that is made up of layers in the sense, a historical one, that is Tibetan ancestry, language, rituals, local regional one that is shaped by the town they live in, the other communities that exist with them, and a political layer that is shaped by the recognition given by the government and a contemporary layer which is very much adaptive to the changes. These layers coexist and blend smoothly to form what we have a Bhutia identity at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uden Bhutia. Okay, the next presentation will be Mr. Koncho Tashi, Relations between Tibetans and Monpas in Arunachal Pradesh. Mr. Koncho Tashi is the president of Monpas Student Association, right? Yeah. All Monpas Students Union. Yeah. General Secretary, please. Yeah.
हेलो आई होप आप सबको मेरा आवाज़ आ रहा होगा एंड फर्स्टली Tashi Dilek, namaskar and very good afternoon to each and everyone. Respected Rinpochelas, Geshilas, professors from various universities and colleges, scholars, authors, and esteemed dignitaries, dear brothers and sisters from Tibet and other parts of Himalayan region. Firstly, I would like to say that I'm a bit nervous, I'm a student leader, not a researcher, scholar or something. I'm just an ordinary Monpa boy who is just actively participating in students' work for students' community and society. And before I start my topic, I would like to share a few things regarding this conference. The topic is Tibet-Himalayan Relation Conference. But please don't mind, as a student leader, I have to say directly, I can't talk in back or I can't just keep my words silence. I have learned a lot from yesterday, various regarding Ladakh and now from Sikkim and from Kalimpong or many parts of from Nepal also. But no one have talked, I think, regarding how the Tibet peoples, our Tibet people are living in India or other parts of Himalayan region, how you have interacted with them, and how the present situation of our relation with them, and how we can improve in future also. I think no one have talked regarding that. I think this is something I think the Tibet-Himalayan Relation Conference. It means how we live and how we can improve in future also. We all know what happened in Tibet in 1959 and what the situation is going on now. Just before I met Sikyong and he told me something very important and emotional words he shared to me. And I felt we should talk regarding the relation, how we can help them or how we can take help from them. And in future also how we can stay and live peacefully and all. Okay, this was my thinking regarding this. And before that, I'd like to before starting, I'd like to thank the organizing committee, especially the Tibet Policy Institute, Dalai Lama Institute for Higher Education, College for Higher Tibetan Studies, Monlam Charitable Trust, for inviting us. Monpas are just nearly approx 2 lakh in whole globe in Earth. You have given us chance to be participate here, and sir just told, I'm the general secretary of All Monpa Students Union. My name is Koncho Tashi, and I belong from a small village of nearly 500 population, Pamagar village. It comes under Lumla Circle, Tawang district, Arunachal Pradesh. And before that, I'd like to say All Monpa Students Union, it has established in 2018. Just we are going through second tenure of our students union. It's 3 years tenure, so it's our second term right now. And we with the motto one culture and one identity. We are acting as a guardian of our community, and in a rapidly changing world where modernization often overshadows our roots, AMSU has taken responsibility of preserving, promoting, and protecting the unique culture and religious heritage. And regarding my topic, Tibetans and Monpas, So like other parts of Himalayan region, I know they live peacefully and helping each other. But in particular, a small area like Arunachal Pradesh, especially like two districts have been inhabited by Monpas. One is Tawang district and second West Kameng district. But only two constituencies of West Kameng are inhabited by Monpas, Dirang and Khalaktang. So I like to share some pictures regarding how we live with the Tibetans in Tawang, Dirang and Khalaktang. I know like you have all known that this is the second largest monastery of India, or Asia, after Potala House, Gandhi Namgil Hatse Tawang Monastery. And like I would like to say in Hindi also, ताकि आप लोग बोर ना हो. सभी इंग्लिश इतना अच्छा बोल रहे हैं, तो हम भी थोड़ा सा अपना नेशनल लैंग्वेज को भी यूज़ कर लेगा. एंड देखिए आप लोग यहाँ पे जैसे ताओ मोनेस्ट्री के नीचे में आप लोग जो यहाँ पे घर देख रहे हैं, ये थोड़ा काफ़ी पुराना फोटो है, पर ये स्पेशली आपका शो बस्ती हम लोग इसको बोलते हैं ना, जहाँ पे स्पेशली हम लोग का टिबेटन पीपल जो तावांग में है वो लोग रहता है. तो वहाँ पे ये पूरा एरिया उन लोग ही रहता है. यहाँ पे हार्डली आपका पकड़िए अगर 1000 टिबेटन्स होगा तो वहाँ पे हार्डली 100 मोनपास रहता है वहाँ पे. एंड दिस इज़ द बर्थ प्लेस ऑफ 6th दलाई लामा. एंड हम आपको ये बताना चाहिए किस तरह से हम लोग वहाँ पे एक साथ मिलजुल के रहता है टिबेटन के साथ में. एंड बर्थ प्लेस ऑफ 6th दलाई लामा सांग ग्याचो उर्गेलिंग गोनपा. एंड यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं हम लोग यहाँ पे हिज होलीनेस का टुंगरिचिन हम लोग सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं. तो आप लोग को यहाँ पे शिंका और खंजर से भरा हुआ आदमी तो दिखाई दे रहा होगा, बट कहीं ना कहीं यहाँ पे आपका छुपा भी पहना वाला दिखाई देगा जो कि टिबेटन्स है, जो हम लोग वहाँ पे एक साथ में मिल के वहाँ पे हम लोग हिज होलीनेस का हम लोग बर्थडे सेलिब्रेशन करता है काफ़ी धूमधाम से खुशी से मिल के. एंड ये पिक्चर्स है. अभी आप लोग सोच रहे हो कुछ जस्ट सिंपल फोटोज है ये, क्योंकि हम कल देख रहा था कि लाइक जो पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंट नहीं कर रहा है तो पीपल थोड़ा बोर हो जाता है. कुछ भी नहीं है, जस्ट बोल रहे ख़त्म किया एंड देन आके बैठ गया. तो हम रात को प्रिपेयर किया कि आप लोगों को किस तरह से हम थोड़ा सा मोटिवेटेड रखें और हम बताएं कि तावांग में क्या चल रहा है. एंड आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे शिंगा पहना वाला भी है, खंजर भी है, छुपा वाला भी है. तो लाइक वी आर सेलिब्रेटिंग, लाइक वी आर लिविंग हैप्पीली विद टिबेट का आदमी बोलो या मोनपास हो, वी आर लिविंग हैप्पीली देयर, वी रेस्पेक्ट ईच अदर. एंड यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं लोग कल्चर में किस तरह से हम लोग एक साथ यहाँ पे प्रिपेयर करते हैं. यहाँ पे पहना छुपा है, लेकिन जो इनका गला में जो आपका ऑर्नामेंट्स दिखाई दे रहा है वो मोनपा का है. तो लाइक वी शेयर एवरीथिंग. एंड देन कुछ भी प्रोग्राम होता है तो वहाँ पे वॉलंटियर्स किस तरह से होता है आप देख ही सकते हैं. यहाँ पे एक बेस्ट एग्जांपल है, आधा लोग जो तिब्बत से है वो आपका छुपा में है, एंड देन आधा लोग शिंका में है. कि जहाँ पे कुछ भी प्रोग्राम्स होता है तो हम लोग मिलजुल के काम करते हैं वहाँ पे. कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है कि आप तिब्बत का है आप बैग में रहो, हम मोनपा आगे रहेगा. नो, वी आर इक्वल. हम लोग आगे एक साथ ही रहता है, कभी एक दूसरे को नीचे दिखाने का वो हम करता ही नहीं है. एंड देन ये आपका खलक्तांग का मोनेस्ट्री है, गिटो मोनेस्ट्री. वहाँ पे जो आपका देखिए किस तरह से मतलब वहाँ पे इस बार का बर्थडे सेलिब्रेशन में ये आप लोग जो डांस कर रहे दिखाई दे रहे हैं ना, इस पर माय नॉलेज हम जितना जानते हैं यहाँ से 3 आमा जो है या दीदी जो है वो आपका तिब्बत का है, बाकी मोनपास है. और जो आपका कैमरामैन है उधर कोना में थोड़ा दिखाई दे रहा होगा आप लोगों को, तो वो मोनपा है. तो लाइक दिस इज द लाइक कल्चरली हम लोग इस तरह से एक दूसरे को सपोर्ट करता है. एंड रिगार्डिंग अभी आपको हमने बता दिया कि प्रोग्राम्स में किस तरह से हम लोग सपोर्ट करता है एक दूसरे को. एंड देन कल्चर प्रोग्राम्स में किस तरह से डांस हो गया या कुछ भी प्रेजेंटेशन हो हम लोग किस तरह से एक साथ करता है. एंड लाइक ये जो है आपका वहाँ का हम लोग का खलक्तांग का TCB स्कूल है. तो स्कूल से अभी एजुकेशन को लेके हम आपको बता देंगे कि हाउ वी आर हेल्पिंग ईच अदर, इंटर रिलेटेड कैसा है. हम लोग का मोनपा का जितना बच्चा है आप लोग को पता है कि TCB स्कूल यहाँ पे धर्मशाला हो दिल्ली में, आई थिंक बहुत जगह साउथ में भी है. तो वहाँ पे मोनपा बच्चा बेटा और बेटी हम लोग का घर का बहुत पढ़ाई करता है. तो वहाँ TCB स्कूल से कितना हम लोग को फ़ायदा होता है हम लोग को पता है. हम लोग हम खुद देखा है कि हम लोग का जो बच्चा जो मोनपा लड़का लड़की है जो TCB स्कूल्स में पढ़ के आता है कितना वो लोग लाइक डिसिप्लिन में रहता है. तो एजुकेशनली हम लोग को किस तरह से TCB से फ़ायदा मिल रहा है. हम जैसे आपको फर्स्ट में बताया कि हाउ वी कैन हेल्प देम और वहाँ से हम लोग कैसे हेल्प लेगा. तो लाइक TCB में मेरा एक कज़न सिस्टर है, वो अभी MA कंप्लीट कर लिया. तो वो आपका कलिम्पोंग में पढ़ाई किया एंड देन राजीव गांधी यूनिवर्सिटी जो है वहाँ पे उसने MA किया, मास्टर ऑफ आर्ट्स इन इकोनॉमिक्स. नाउ शी इज़ डन B.Ed ऑल्सो. अभी वो अपना फ्यूचर उसके लिए एग्जामिनेशन के प्रिपेयर कर रहा है. हम लोग का फैमिली में सबसे वेल बिहेव्ड, किसको रेस्पेक्ट से बात करना और किस तरह से एक दूसरा को ग्रीट करना, वो सब उसने वहाँ TCB से सीख के आया. इवन लाइक हम एक स्टूडेंट लीडर है, बट समटाइम्स आई ऑल्सो फील लाइक कि हम खुद भी इतना, यहाँ पे आप लोग इतना सीनियर्स लोग बैठा हुआ है, लर्नेड ग्रुप्स लोग बैठा हुआ है, हम आप लोग को ग्रीट ही नहीं कर पा रहे, क्योंकि लाइक आप लोग को पता है मोनपा लोग थोड़ा शर्मिला भी होता है, ऐसा बात वो भी होगा, लेकिन बट टीसीबी इज हेल्पिंग ए लॉट। टीसीबी बहुत हेल्प कर रहा है हम लोग को, स्पेशली मोनपा का जो बच्चा लोग है वो लोग के लिए। एंड ये भी वहाँ का टीसीबी का ही एक वो स्कूल का ही है, जहाँ पे यहाँ पे आपका सब स्कूल ड्रेसेस में है, लेकिन यहाँ पे मोनपा बच्चा लोग भी बहुत है, वो आपको दिखाने के लिए। एंड दिस वाज समथिंग लाइक विच वी हैव कम अक्रॉस लास्ट ईयर। कुछ हम लोग का बहुत बड़ा एक इशू हुआ था, तो वहाँ पे नियरली तवांग में आपका, हम जैसे आपको बताया कि तवांग में हार्डली 50-60,000 ही पॉपुलेशन है, और उसमें से आपका बाहर का ट्राइब्स भी बहुत है, नॉन ट्राइबल्स भी बहुत ज़्यादा है। लेकिन जब हम लोग का कुछ एक इशू हुआ था बहुत बड़ा, तो आप लोग देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे कि छुपा पहनने वाला भी है, इवन मोनपा आपका खंजर सिंगा पहनने वाला भी है। लाइक जो कुछ भी इश्यूज होता है वी सपोर्ट ईच अदर, चाहे वो आपका तिब्बत से लेके इशू हो, चाहे वो नेशनल हम लोग का इंडिया का अपना कंट्री को लेके हो, वी आर देयर विद ईच अदर। ये आपको दिखाने के लिए जस्ट कि हाउ लाइक हम लोग यूनिटी में रहता है, वो हम आपको रिलेशन में दिखाने के लिए। एंड दैट्स लाइक दिस इज मी। बट ये लास्ट ईयर हम लोग यहाँ पे एक तेंशु ऑर्गेनाइज किया था, नॉट अस बट आवर वनरेबल Again, Kishila, Lamang like he have organized one Tenshuk for His Holiness, and यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं कि ये तवांग का मोनपा भी है, और पीछे में जो एक छुपा पहना है वो मेरा हम लोग का एक जान पहचान का दीदी है, तो इस माय कजिन सिस्टर ऑल्सो। वो अभी एक होते ना जैसे कि रिलेशन निकल ही जाता है, तो लाइक वो लोग अपना एक जो ये आप हिज होलीनेस का कुछ प्रोग्राम हुआ था, तो उसमें भी आप देख सकते हैं कि हाउ मोनपास एंड टिबेटन पीपल वी वर्क टुगेदर। एंड ये आई थिंक आवर ऑथर सर नवांग सिंगला, आई थिंक आपको ये जगह पता होगा, ये बुमला पास है। तो यहाँ पे हम लोग का ऑनरेबल एमएलए तवांग श्री नमगे सिरिंग के तरफ स्पॉन्सर करके हम लोग ने बुमला में एक लोसर सेलिब्रेशन किया था विद इंडियन आर्मी। ये एक हम लोग का एक मैसेज देना था कि अपना टिबेटन पीपल को जो चाइना ने कब्जा करके रखा हुआ है वहाँ पे ना, तो कि हम लोग वी आर हियर, हम लोग लोसर अपना यहाँ पे आपका इंडिया बॉर्डर में आके सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं, ताकि वो आवाज़ जिस दिन हम लोग यहाँ पे जय जय वगैरह या जो भी लोसर में हम लोग स्लोगन रखता है, तो वो वहाँ तक पहुँचे बोल के हम लोग ने वहाँ पे एक सेलिब्रेट किया था कि दिस शोस मतलब कि हाउ हम लोग का आवर लव फॉर टिबेटियंस, ये शो करने के लिए हम लोग ने ये वो किया था, यहाँ पे प्रोग्राम किया था। एंड ये हो गया। अभी फेस्टिवल्स भी आपको दिखा दे लो सर, ये स्पोर्ट्स का भी रिसेंटली हम लोग का तवांग में एक इंडिपेंडेंस कप 2025 होता है एवरी ईयर ऑन द ईव ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस। तो ये वहाँ का शोबस्ती का एक टीम है, शोबस्ती मीन्स जो टिबेटन पीपल है, तो उनका एक गोनपा है तेनखांग बोल के वहाँ का, तो उनको तेनखांग FC बोल के दिखाया। तो लाइक इन स्पोर्ट्स ऑल्सो मतलब वो लोग वहाँ से टीम निकलता है, पार्टिसिपेट करता है, तो हम लोग एक साथ में खेलता है वहाँ पे। तो वी वेयर द ऑर्गेनाइजर्स, तो हम लोग ऑर्गेनाइज भी करता है, तो उसमें ये लोग पार्टिसिपेट किया था। तो जस्ट टू शो कि स्पोर्ट्स से हम लोग किस तरह से आपका लाइक वी आर क्लोज विथ टिबेटन पीपल। लाइक दिस इज देयर टीम, नॉट सो क्लियर बट ये उन लोग का ही एक टीम है शोबस्ती का। एंड बिफोर कंक्लूडिंग लाइक आई वुड से कि ये अभी आपको हमने दिखाया कि किस तरह से थ्रू पिक्चर्स की वी आर close with the Tibetan people settled at Tawang, Dirang and West Kaming and other parts of the region of the Arunachal Pradesh. But there are something जो हम लोग कुछ साथ में ऑर्गेनाइज करके मतलब कोलैबोरेट करके यहाँ पे जो आप लोग अभी यहाँ पे 4 इतना बड़ा बड़ा इंस्टीट्यूशन आप लोग ने इतना अच्छा कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑर्गेनाइज किया, तो व्हाई नॉट कि सम अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ हिमालयन रीजन से भी आप लोग का भी कुछ एसोसिएशंस होगा, आप लोग का भी कुछ NGOs होगा। लेट्स कम टुगेदर, सब हिमालयन रीजन एक साथ मिल के क्यों ना एक ऐसा हम लोग ये जो अभी आज का कॉन्फ्रेंस जो अभी ऑर्गेनाइज किया है वो वैसा सेम एक और करके क्यों ना इसको और आपका ये हम लोग का रिलेशन को और ठीक क्यों ना करें। और मीन्स प्यार है बट देखते से ही प्यार आता है, बट क्यों ना अभी बात करने तक में हम लोग पहुँचे, वो एक होना ज़रूरी है। तो जस्ट आया देयर बुद्धिस्ट, हाँ हम भी बुद्धिस्ट है, टेस्टिले कहानी खत्म, वो नहीं होना है, नहीं है क्या, जस्ट वी हैव टू बी लाइक नो ईच अदर, नहीं है क्या, वो होना ज़रूरी है। एंड लाइक आई हैव सम पॉइंट्स कि हम लोग किस तरह से कुछ प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज करके, स्पेशली ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमेटी आप लोगों को बोल रहे हैं हम, एंड आवर जो यूथ से यहाँ पे यंग्स जो लद्दाख से आया हुआ है एंड अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ सिक्किम से हो गया या फिर कलिम्पोंग से हो, वेस्ट बंगाल से हो, आप लोग जो है वो लाइक कल्चर एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम हम लोग ऑर्गेनाइज कर सकते हैं, जैसे जॉइंट फेस्टिवल्स, सेमिनार्स, आपका कुछ पिलग्रिमेज टूर्स, जिसमें मतलब हम लोग का जो टिबेटियंस है, मोनपा कम्युनिटी वाला है या फिर अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ हिमालयन रीजन से, चाहे जो भी हो, लेप्चा हो, भुटिया हो, सिक्किमिस हो, कोई भी हो, लद्दाखी हो, हम लोग सब मिल के मतलब कुछ साथ में ऑर्गेनाइज करेगा, देन आवर पीपल विल बी क्लोज, हम लोग और ज़्यादा क्लोज होगा। एंड जैसे कि अभी यूथ एंगेजमेंट प्रोग्राम्स, इस्टेब्लिश स्टूडेंट एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम्स, कैंप्स एंड ट्रेनिंग इन बुद्धिस्ट फिलोसॉफी टू कीप आवर यंगर जनरेशन कनेक्टेड, क्योंकि अभी अपना ऊपर वाला जो उम्र वाला है तो हो गया तो टाइम, नाउ इट्स आवर टाइम, नाउ हम लोग का टाइम है अभी प्रेजेंट जनरेशन का, लाइक हम लोग को वो ठीक करना है। नहीं, सीधा बात है, देखिए आप लोग मैंने एक डायरेक्टली हम लोग बात करना जरूरी है, तो हम लोग का जनरेशन कल का डेट में जाके नहीं रहेगा। जो अभी हम लोग से 10-15 साल का या 5 इयर्स का गैप वाला जो हम लोग से सीनियर्स है, वो लोग का मेंटेलिटी भी चेंज होगा ना बूढ़ा होते होते, बट इट्स अस जो हम लोग को ये ठीक करना है, अपना कल्चर को प्रिजर्वेशन ये इसको वो करना है। क्योंकि यहाँ सब तो बात करता है कि तिब्बत हिमालयन रीजन, आई नो लाइक हम सेम होना ही है, वी शेयर द लाइक सामने सामने ही तो रहता है, 1-2 पहाड़ का ही फर्क है, तो ऑब्वियस का बात है कि रियली आपका खान पीन, छुरपी सब्जी हो, मोमो हो, टीमो हो, टिंगमो हो, टुप्पा हो, शिंगा खंजर हो, छुपा हो, आलू पुडिंग हो, कुछ भी हो, वी हैव टू बी सेम, होना ही है, ये नेचुरल है। तो वाई टू टॉक अबाउट दैट, क्यों ना इसको और अच्छा कैसे करें, उसका बारे में हम लोग बात करते हैं। एंड लाइक थर्ड पॉइंट, प्रिजर्वेशन ऑफ हेरिटेज, लाइक डॉक्यूमेंट एंड प्रमोट आवर ओरल हिस्ट्रीज, रिचुअल्स एंड फोक ट्रेडिशंस। And fourthly, dialogue and collaboration, encourage continuous dialogue between Tibetans, Monpas and Himalayan leaders, scholars, monastic institutions to find new paths of cooperation. And lastly, service to humanity, work together on social service projects such as education, healthcare, environmental preservation, guided by Buddhist values of compassion and service. And lastly, before इसको conclude करने से पहले, आप सभी से अभी यही एक रिक्वेस्ट रहेगा कि लाइक इस तरह का प्रोग्राम्स को फिर से हम लोग मिल के ऑर्गेनाइज करें, एंड हम लोग उसमें भी बढ़ चढ़ के पार्टिसिपेट करेगा। एंड जैसा हम आपको थोड़ा पहले बताया कि आई एम नॉट एन स्कॉलर, आई एम जस्ट एन स्टूडेंट लीडर, हम तो डायरेक्टली कम्युनिकेट करता है। एंड रिगार्डिंग दिस कॉन्फ्रेंस हम तो वही बोलेगा कि लाइक कल से अभी तक में बिफोर हम खुद स्पीच देने से पहले जितना भी स्पीकर्स था, वी हैव लर्नड अ लॉट, सीरियसली वी हैव लर्नड अ लॉट, बट वी नीड टू टॉक अबाउट दिस। ये एक फैक्ट है कि हाउ वी कैन डेवलप दिस रिलेशन, लाइक मोर स्ट्रॉन्गर कैसे बनाया जाए, किस तरह से और फ्रैंक हो, ये होना ज़रूरी है। अदरवाइज यहाँ पे आएगा, सब पेपर प्रेजेंट करेगा, आई विल कम एंड टॉक, खाना खाएगा, वापस जाके सोएगा, एंड देन फ्लाइट पकड़ो चल दो, नो यूज़। या तो सोशल मीडियाज में आएगा, वहाँ गया था, पार्टिसिपेट किया था, आई थिंक दैट विल बी ऑफ नो यूज़। हम लोग को जैसे हिज होलीनेस ही ऑलवेज से कि मतलब ग्रास रूट लेवल में खुद लाइक प्रैक्टिस करके पता करना है कि दूसरा तो बोलते रहेगा क्या क्या, लेकिन वो है कि हम लोग खुद को एक प्रैक्टिकली वर्कआउट तो करना ही पड़ेगा। तो दैट्स व्हाट आई वांट टू से। एंड लास्टली, डियर ब्रदर्स एंड सिस्टर्स, द स्नो ऑफ तिब्बत एंड द हिमालयस may cover different valleys and peaks, but it melts in the same rivers that nurture us all. Our shared spiritual and cultural heritage is a precious jewel. By reviving and living the essence of Buddhist culture, compassion, non-violence, respect for life, we can not only strengthen the bond between Tibetans, Monpas, and Himalayan peoples, but also contribute to peace and harmony in the world. Let us work together on this path with renewed commitment, ensuring that the wisdom of our ancestors becomes the guiding light of our future generation. Lastly, as our Honorable Chief Minister Shri Pema Khandula always say, like we share border with Tibet, not China, and I don't hope, I believe that Tibet will be free one day, and the Tibetans here in this hall, the organizers, we will surely drink a cup of tea outside Potala House. And lastly, Karinche, thank you so much, and really sorry if I had someone. Thank you.
Thank you, Koncho Tashi, for your touching presentation. Now I request Ms. Padma Angmo, writer, poet, and journalist, And her topic is Resilience and Adaptation in Changdang, Sustaining Pastoral Heritage in a Changing Himalaya.
Hello.
Thank you. Please start.
Julay, Tashidelek, and a warm hello to everyone. I would like to begin by sincerely thanking the respected organizers of the Tibet-Himalaya Relations Conference for inviting me. This gathering is a rare and valuable space to reflect on the cultural, ecological, and spiritual Okay. I'll start from the beginning again. Julay, Tashidelek, and a warm hello to everyone. I would like to begin by sincerely thanking the respected organizers of the Tibet-Himalaya Relation Conference for inviting me, especially Mr. Tsering. This gathering is a rare and valuable space to reflect on the cultural, ecological, and spiritual ties that have long connected Tibet and the Himalaya. My name is Padma Angmo. I come from Ladakh, and my work as a poet, author, journalist, and environmentalist is rooted in listening to the lived realities of communities who are too often spoken about but rarely heard from. These voices, often marginalized in policy and scholarship, carry immense wisdom for our collective future. Today, I am here for the nomads of Changtang, for their voices, their griefs and hopes, their adaptations and visions. My aim is to center them not merely as subjects of study, but as knowledge keepers and stewards of fragile high-altitude ecologies. By bringing their perspective into this dialogue, I hope to contribute to the wider conversation on Tibet-Himalaya relations, to show that these ties are not only historical or geopolitical, but also lived daily through pastoral resilience, cultural continuity, and spiritual values that guide coexistence. To listen to the nomads is, I believe, to listen to the Himalaya itself, its resilience, its grief, and its hope for continuity. So let us listen. My topic is called Resilience and Adaptation in Changtang, Sustaining Pastoral Heritage in a Changing Himalaya. So I'll be speaking about the nomadic communities of Changtang, a high-altitude plateau in Ladakh, whose lives and identities are deeply bound to the landscape. For generations, the indigenous Changpa have sustained their livelihoods through pastoralism. In 1959, following the Tibetan uprising, some nomadic refugee groups also settled here, weaving their experiences into Changtang's cultural fabric. Together, they represent a long tradition of resilience and adaptation in the face of ecological extremes. My research draws on fieldwork across hamlets, including Dukong, Tiling Nala, Rongo, Punguk, Angkong, and Radha, through interviews, oral histories, testimonies, and participatory visioning exercises. I explore how communities perceive change, how they adapt their livelihoods, and how they sustain cultural identity amidst uncertainty. This study contributes by foregrounding mental health, intergenerational voices, and women's perspectives, dimensions often absent in scholarship on nomadic life. At the heart of my work lies a key question. Are we witnessing the last generation of nomads or the transformation of nomadism into new forms? So let's go to the methodology and research contribution. For methods, I rely on ethnographic fieldwork, interviews with elders and youth, oral histories, women's narratives, and community visioning. For research gaps, I've noticed that most Himalayan scholarship emphasizes ecology or climate data, less on mental health, identity, and intergenerational dynamics. Women's perspectives remain underrepresented. Nomads' own spiritual ethics of coexistence rarely appear in policy debates. Through this paper, I aim to contribute by linking climate grief, identity crisis, and resilience in one frame, positioning youth and women not only as vulnerable, but as agents of change, asking whether pastoralism is declining or evolving into hybrid futures. Challenges facing nomads. So the main challenges, as discussed, are climate change, which manifests as warmer winters, colder springs, delayed pastures, dwindling water resources. Human-wildlife conflict, which is a major issue, which again manifests as livestock losses from snow leopards, wolves, and feral dogs. And most importantly, again, I noticed that there's a huge identity crisis among youth. Many see herding as outdated, though some return out of pride, responsibility, and love. And climate grief, elders and youth alike mourn the loss of ecological balance and cultural continuity. These overlapping challenges raise deeper questions about survival, continuity, and identity. Now let's hear voices from the fields itself. First one is from Dugong. Karma Tenba, a seasoned herder, explained, "Due to climate change, winters are warmer and springs colder. Pastures grow late, livestock suffer, and our pashmina quality declines. We must buy fodder from Leh." Others recall snow leopards killing 15 sheep in a single night. While painful, they affirm coexistence if supported with predator-proof equipment like corrals or foxlights. These testimonies show how climate stress and predator conflict combine to threaten economic stability and cultural survival. Youth at the crossroads. Now let's go to Tiling Nala. Urgen, who is 26 years old and is the youngest herder, he says, and I quote, "I gave up studies and returned to herding. If I stop, nomadism will be extinct. I feel it's my duty," unquote. But most of his peers seek army jobs, tourism, or driving. Parents observe, our educated children say herding is beneath them. This tension between duty, pride, and rejection marks a generational dilemma. If youth disengage, the chain of ecological knowledge transmission will break. Women voices, like I said in the beginning, are often underrepresented. So women in Rongo and Angkung are changing that. In Rongo, women say, and I quote, "We yearn to be seen and heard. We don't want to fade into obscurity." In Angkung, women lead change through weaving and handicrafts, linking cultural heritage with economic independence. Their crafts carry their stories to the wider world. Foregrounding women's voices reveal hardships, but also leadership and creativity in sustaining identity. Can we play the video, please? So I have chosen few testimonies amongst the testimonies that I've selected. Is the video audible? I don't think so, right? I don't think that was much audible, but this lady really inspired me, and she's one of the brave women who represent hope and courage for the future of nomadism. She says not everybody wants to be a doctor or engineer. She wants to be a nomad because she feels pride as a nomad. So testimonies and interviews like that gives me hope that nomadism is not on the brink of extinction, but rather it's negotiating survival. So I'll play another video. Hopefully it's audible.
The culture have in the Mongolian nomads. If just those culture are introduced here, so it may be one more opportunity and different opportunity for the young people to do a nomad. So that's the one big opportunity I see as a nomad. So the culture that's happened in the Mongols and also the people they also do a astroculture, astrophotography, so they also do a guiding, so they also do those things. So all people want to do many things in a small amount of time. So nomads don't have during daytime they didn't have anything to do. So before people used to do something, they make a drop, they make a different thing. So now people didn't know anything, so they just follow the sheep. So just listen to the music and they follow the sheep. So there are the reason. If we get other things to do, so during the herding or shipping, so it could be a huge opportunity.
Not much audible, but what he's basically saying, he's hoping, he's dreaming for a future where there is digital nomadism and where they could be digital nomads. And I could see when we were conversing, they were inspired by the Mongolian nomads. But the problem and challenges was that Changthang being in a sensitive zone, there were issues with network. So that dream still remains very difficult to attain. But despite the challenges, these children, these youth, they still dream, they still hope, and they still cling on to the hope that they will sustain nomadism. They will be the future. Let's go to innovation and resilience, Punguk and Radha. In Punguk, youth imagine dairies, astronomy projects, even digital nomadism through networks. Though networks are weak, one youth said, "Nomadism is our pride, but without support, many are forced to leave it." In Radha, chorals transformed attitudes. As Buddhists, compassion is our duty. With chorals, coexistence is possible. They're speaking in regard with human-animal conflict, and they're willing to coexist peacefully with the animals, provided the government or the authorities give them predator-proof equipment. Resilience emerges at the intersection of innovation, spirituality, and survival needs. Now, this is something which I've noticed and is a matter of great concern, which is mental health and identity. Parents describe their children as caught between worlds, neither fully aligned with nomadism or prepared for urban life. One parent told me, "Our children feel useless, alienated from tradition, yet unable to thrive in a modern society." This cultural dislocation is a profound mental health challenge. It raises questions of belonging, continuity, and self-worth among youth. So the main themes emerging are these four main points. One is intergenerational resilience, elders' ecological wisdom versus youth's ambivalence, gender and empowerment, women demanding recognition and leadership, innovation within tradition with folk slides, dairies, weaving, hybrid livelihoods, spiritual values of coexistence, compassion as a guiding ethic in predator conflict. Together, they illustrate that nomadism is not dying, it's negotiating survival. Changthang in the Tibetan Himalayan context. Changthang's dilemma echo across Tibet, Mongolia, and the Himalaya. Everywhere, pastoralists face climate change, modernization, and education pulling youth away. The question of whether pastoralism is declining, transforming, or enduring in new forms. By situating Changthang here, this study shows that Himalayan nomads are not peripheral. Their voices belong at the center of global debates on pastoral resilience and climate adaptation. As conclusion and future of research, the future of Changthang pastoralism depends on engaging youth, not only as herders, but as innovators, empowering women as economic leaders and cultural custodians, supporting pastoralists as ecological stewards, not relics of the past. But even if nomadism is preserved, environmental degradation will undermine everything. Protecting the land is inseparable from protecting culture. Environmental degradation, melting glaciers, drying springs, shrinking pastures, soil erosion directly threatens the survival of nomadic pastoralism. Nomadism is tied to ecological balance. Even if cultural practices endure, without healthy land to sustain herds, the lifestyle itself will collapse. This calls for strengthening water resources, practicing rotational grazing, ensure predator coexistence, and advancing climate adaptation rooted in community wisdom. My study shows that nomads are themselves asking, are they the last generation of nomads or pioneers of a renewed adapted pastoralism? This question makes Changthang not just a case study, but a scholarly site of significance for Himalayan studies, anthropology, climate adaptation, and cultural continuity. Thank you.
Thank you.